Ever stared at an astrological chart and just felt completely overwhelmed, by the sheer number of rules, yogas, planetary combos, and conflicting signals? Well, you are definitely not alone. Welcome to this explainer on Ashtakvarga. Today, we're diving into an ancient Vedic system that literally does all the heavy mathematical lifting for you. It provides a highly accurate, quick, and math-driven method for making predictions. Once you wrap your head around this, I promise you'll never look at a birth chart the same way again. So to get why this system even exists, we gotta rewind thousands of years. Sage Parashara was teaching the vast, super complex knowledge of astrology to his disciple Maitreya. And he had this massive realization. He basically saw that future generations, meaning us living in the current era or Kaliyuga, simply wouldn't have the bandwidth to synthesize thousands of complex astrological yogas. He playfully, or maybe literally, noted that for the dim-witted people of Kaliyuga, a simpler, unambiguous solution was needed. So, he gave us a brilliant mathematical shortcut. And that brings us to the actual term, Ashtakvarga. It translates literally to 8 divisions. But what are the 8? Well, it evaluates the combined influences of the 7 main physical planets, from the Sun all the way to Saturn, plus your Ascendant or Lagna. You'll notice the shadowy nodes Rahu and Ketu get left out here because they're mathematical points, not physical bodies. By bringing these 8 entities together, we get this incredibly unified, specific picture of planetary strength. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the digital blueprint. Second, decoding the point system. Third, the astrological trump card. Fourth, timing transits and gochar. And fifth, predicting dasha results. Let's get into it. Section 1, the digital blueprint. Let's look at how this ancient text basically acts as astrology's binary code. Think of Ashtakvarga as the ultimate digital blueprint of your life. Seriously, it operates just like modern computer binary code. As planets move around, they either help you or they don't. In this system, if a planet gives a benefit to a specific house, it gets a simple 1, which is called a bindu or reka. If it gives 0 benefit, it gets a 0. There is absolutely no gray area. By tallying up all those 1s and 0s from all 8 entities across your 12 houses, we build a rock-solid mathematical structure of your destiny. Moving on to part 2, decoding the point system. Let's actually look at the math powering these precise predictions. So 8, that is the absolute maximum number of points a house can get from any single planet's transit or placement. If a house gets 0 points from a planet, it is completely weak in that regard. If it scores a full 8, it's exceptionally powerful. But we don't just look at planets in isolation. 28 is the magic number here. It represents the average point strength for any given house when you combine all the planetary influences together. If a house scores exactly 28, it gives you average results. Anything above 28 means that area of your life is highly empowered. Below 28, well, you're going to have to put in some extra elbow grease to get results there. Now, this is a truly fascinating constant. 337. This is the total number of points distributed across the 12 houses in every single human being's birth chart. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you're a king or a pauper, you get exactly 337 points. The entire difference in our lives lies in exactly how those 337 points get distributed. And here's what that actually looks like in practice, grounding all this theory into a visual reality. This table is your life's matrix. Notice how every planet chips in its score, giving us those final totals at the bottom row. You can literally just glance at this and instantly spot the houses that are bursting with energy, the ones scoring up in the 30s, and the ones that are totally starved for support, down in the low 20s. It's the ultimate at-a-glance chart reading. Which brings us to section 3, the astrological trump card. This is where we see how these point scores actually override the standard rules. Okay, so you look at your standard chart, you spot a debilitated, combust, or generally weak planet, and you instantly panic, right? But is it actually guaranteed to cause you suffering? Without Ashtakvarga, you might say yes, but Ashtakvarga completely changes the game. According to the source texts, it works as a literal trump card. Say you have a supposedly bad planet, but it's sitting in a house where it scores more than 4 points in its own scorecard. That high score massively overrides the bad placement. That planet is actually going to give you favorable results. On the flip side, you could have a gorgeous, exalted planet, but if it's sitting in a house with terrible points, it's just not going to deliver on its promises. The math always wins. And what's really cool is how the points trigger a planet's specific personality. Take an astrologer, which deals with the 8th and 12th houses. If Mercury is giving the high points, Mercury is pragmatic. It understands profit and loss. It might tell a client to start an export import business for financial gain. But if Jupiter is giving the high points, Jupiter doesn't care about profit. It's all about wisdom and right action. It would advise that exact same client to focus on spiritual surrender and selfless service. The points don't just say good or bad. They activate the unique flavor of the planet granting them.
All right, Section 4, Timing Transits and Gochar. Let's see how we use this for the here and now.
So Saturn Sati, that 7.5-year transit over your natal moon, is usually dreaded as this era of intense suffering and bad luck. But wait, Ashtakvarga gives us a magnifying glass. If Saturn is transiting a sign where it scores more than 4 points in its own chart, that suffering is drastically curtailed. Instead of hardship, you might actually hit some massive career peaks during a time you thought was going to be miserable. And we can apply this dynamically all the time by mapping where the planets are in the sky right now directly onto your base Ashtakvarga chart. We aren't just predicting big, decades-long phases, we're predicting specific months or even days. Want to know if next month is going to be lucky? Experts like VP Goyal give us a super clear method. First, grab your base birth points. Second, make a transit chart for the start of the month, say when the sun moves into Capricorn. Third, see where the planets are transiting and tally up their points based on your natal chart. If your total for that month beats the baseline average of 25, you are in for a fantastic, highly favorable month. If it's way below 25, you know to just lay low and avoid major risks. It's incredibly practical. Finally, Section 5, Predicting Dasha Results. Let's look at how this reshapes our view of major planetary periods. When you enter a new dasha, you obviously want to know what's coming. Let's look at a moon dasha example. You've got to see how the moon distributes its points across your 12 houses. In this case, the moon gives a measly 2 points to this second house of wealth. Math says this dasha is simply not going to make you rich. However, look at the 9th house of higher learning. It grants an overwhelming 7 points. That makes it an absolute powerhouse time for teaching, writing, and education. So what's the actionable takeaway here? Instead of banging your head against the wall chasing wealth for years and getting totally frustrated because you only have 2 points, pivot. Lean hard into higher learning and teaching, where you have 7 points. That is where you're going to find flow, immense satisfaction, and genuine success. Which leaves us with this incredible, empowering thought derived directly from the ancient sages. Why weep over your astrological weaknesses when you have the exact mathematical formula to utilize your greatest strengths? Ashtakvarga doesn't just predict the future, it shows you exactly where to invest your energy. It turns a confusing chart into a super clear, strategic map for life. So, looking at your own life right now, which house has the highest points? And more importantly, are you actually using it? Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.